As you can see from the title, today's review is brought to you by Guerlain. It is the classic Vetiver. I'll just show you the bottle there. But this fragrance has been around since 1959, composed by Jean-Paul Guerlain. I believe, and I'm not entirely sure, it was the first fragrance Guerlain release that was specifically targeted at males, to wear perfume, but I can't be too sure. There's no reference to homme on here. I don't know what it was called when it was first released, but it is overwhelmingly a perfume that is worn by men. If you look at the users on websites like Parfumo and Fragrantica, this, as the name would suggest, is a dominant vetiver fragrance. The perfume is built around and showcases the note of vetiver. When it opens up, there is citrus, but here I really enjoy the way the citrus is blended, because it's difficult to tell what citrus note is dominating at the beginning. It feels like a bergamot citrus note, but then you pick up facets of what could be lemon, where it gets a little bit sour, or something sweet like orange. At no one time does it ever sort of poke its head through to say, yes, this is an orange citrus or a lemon citrus. Overall, it has the feel of a bergamot. So there is this kind of fresh warmth in the opening, but of course the vetiver is there right from the beginning. What the citrus does here, instead of giving it an overly fresh feel, it actually gives the vetiver a clean feel. And what I mean by that is that you can smell a lot of vetiver perfumes that have this kind of dirty earthiness about it, where this vetiver, and I must stop at this point and say that this review is based solely on the current version of Guerlain vetiver. I think it's been in this packaging just for the last few years, so I can't speak to vintages, I can't speak to the different types of bottles that's come in. I know a lot of people are mad for the ribbed style version of Guerlain vetiver. I'm only talking about this particular one, and this is what my review is based on. So the citrus here cleans up the vetiver. It's like the vetiver the vetiver roots have just been pulled out of the earth and washed, and so you get this kind of clean, earthy vetiver, but not dirty vetiver, if that makes any sense. And I'll give you a comparison. Something like an Encre Noire, that vetiver to me, when I compare it to this, is a lot earthier. It's a lot dirtier feeling than this one. The thing about this is that the citrus never takes it too far in turning this into a straight up freshy fragrance. Unlike something like Tom Ford's Grey Vetiver, which to me is a fresh fragrance, because the citrus really is an equal player with the vetiver in that fragrance. And in fact, I actually sold my Grey Vetiver when I got this one, because wearing them side by side, I found myself leaning more towards this, and there was something about the Tom Ford that was a little bit scratchy on my skin once I had smelled this. So this to me is a smoother vetiver, and what I love about the composition of this one is that clearly we're talking about Jean-Paul Guerlain, and it's a very classical perfume structure built around the vetiver. So we've got the citrus opening, and then you find yourself into this warm, spicy heart, right? So predominantly, it's a nutmeg spice, which gives it a warmth, as well as this peppery aspect to it, but it is a beautiful example of a perfumer knowing their materials and knowing what blends in with what, in terms of the citrus blending into the spice, because it's a very seamless transition. So all of a sudden it feels like the citrus is still there, but really if you just sprayed some on your arm and had 20 minutes going on this side, you'd realize the citrus is gone, and now we're into the spices. And from there, the nutmeg, and probably I can't be too sure that it's the tobacco doing this, but the nutmeg does something to the vetiver that gives it this kind of almost toasted hay type of facet, which is really nice. And I'm sure that eventually blends into a base that might have some kind of tobacco accord in there. Ultimately, the dry down is very smooth, and what I would describe as the vetiver note gets this kind of dampness about it. Like it's still, it's like the roots have been washed and now they're kind of drying off, and there is a steaminess about it, there is a dampness about it, and it is reminiscent of tobacco pouches where tobacco needs to be kept at a certain humidity, and I really get that feel from it. There is, if I had to be very, very picky about the dry down of this current version of Vetiver, there is something in the base that is it just not sitting right. It's it sits a little bit unbalanced, but it's just the most minute criticism for me, because I don't really notice it when I'm wearing it, and I've only picked up on it when I'm sniffing quite closely. So that is probably just something about me sniffing too closely, whereas wearing this normally I don't notice it at all. So it's like a sour damp note. In terms of performance, this probably 6 hours. I can smell it for. It is an eau de toilette concentration. But you can get a Vetiver Extreme, but I think recently that's been discontinued. It doesn't smell exactly the same, but it does have a better performance than this one. I like I said earlier, I did get rid of grey vetiver from Tom Ford, and this is my main vetiver in my collection. But what you need to really kind of sort of put in context is the fact that this has been around for 60 years. I believe that Givenchy and Carbon both had vetiver fragrances before this one was released, but this has by far become the most popular and well-known, I guess, vetiver soliflor that's been on the market for all that time, and I believe still sells very well for Guerlain. Otherwise it probably would have been discontinued a long time ago. Also, the context in which that other fragrances, other very hugely popular fragrances have kind of taken this blueprint and done different things with it, like grey vetiver, for instance. To me, that is more citrus more citrus heavy than this one. And then you've got things like Terre d'Hermès, which uses the vetiver, but the spices and the mineralic notes are amped up in that one. Different use of citrus as well. But this is the original, and to me is, given that I'm not a huge vetiver fanboy, in that I do like vetiver fragrances, but I'm not interested in trying every vetiver fragrance. I'm very happy with the original Guerlain vetiver, even in its current formulation and packaging. And I think it's definitely it definitely should be sniffed if you are exploring vetiver, just so at least you have a bit of context with what you smell afterwards. It might not be the most exciting one, but to me it's kind of like, out of Guerlain's masculines, the most utilitarian, working class fragrance that they have in that line. I find it's interesting because I find this was released in 59, Habit Rouge in 65, and then we got something like Guerlain Heritage, which was released in the early 90s. And to me, Heritage feels like the most old-fashioned of those three. Habit Rouge is definitely more dandified, more fancy. This one is just does smelling like a man very well, and I have no complaints. And that is my review of Vetiver from Guerlain, and I will see you next time. Bye.